Number 8 on the agenda, 2017-32, resolve creation of a special access revenue account.
Wait for me, please.
Chair recognizes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Through you, this is basically a resolution just to follow up some of the discussion that we had pertaining to the downtown and the financing thereof. In particular, what I was citing was a report produced by RKG that essentially showed a surplus in DIF revenue. And as the process stands now, essentially any surpluses basically drop into the general account. So my thought was, is there even the ability to create essentially a sub-account in the DIF account, say that for 5 times, that would essentially capture this excess revenue and in my mind, be used as an additional tool to mitigate any risk. I mean, as we all know, when you undertake a large construction project, for example, the financing of a parking garage to the tune of anywhere $30, $40, $50 million, there's assumed and unassumed risk. So my thought was, I just wanted to follow up on the point I had made when we were having the discussion to see if there's been any advancement in terms of getting to the bottom of that. I don't know if Director Kavanaugh or the auditor have anything to add to that, but I just wanted to keep the conversation going because there was a noticeable amount of excess positive revenue. What do you say?
I have had a conversation with Director of Municipal Finance, and we have been in touch with the outside auditors to discuss the possibility of this. To date, we have not received any word back from them. So once we have some specifics, I will get back to the council.
Thank you, Madam Auditor.
You're welcome.
And you've been a pleasure, like always, to work with on this particular item. But again, I would ask my colleagues for their support because the way I feel is it's just another tool in the city's toolbox to help protect the interests of the taxpayers. So with that, I would move passage.
Motion to pass the resolution seconded by Councilor Calmucci. This will be referred to Finance.
I think he's
and to the Mayor's office. Right? Mayor.
Referred to Director of Finance.
Director of Finance.
To go to
the
committee
Mayor.
to follow up.
Well, again, in order for it to be in the calendar, so you can follow up later, it probably should be referred to Finance.
okay on the motion.
On the motion, Councilor Calmucci.
So I have a question to ask, but are we voting on this tonight? Is he going to vote on this tonight? Right?
It's my understanding
Yeah.
that he
Okay, good.
wishes to, yeah.
Yeah,
But again,
right.
because it has something that we're asking to be done, it
Got it.
should be in before us.
Also refer, yeah. I just want to ask, perhaps to the auditor. So the DIF account. First of all, I think this is great. It's about mitigating the risk, which I'm a big fan of. When we're talking about anything to do with the downtown, anytime we can mitigate the risk of the taxpayers' money, we should be all over it. But and that's why I'll support it. But the DIF account, so it's essentially almost like a fictional. We've created this geographic boundary that we call the DIF district, right? And then we, is there actually, do all the tax revenues actually go into the account, or they go into the general fund, and then we keep track of what is coming out of the DIF area, and we call it the DIF account?
I believe what happens is the DIF within the DIF district, the revenue that is generated goes into the general fund. At the end of each fiscal year, we receive it's an accounting methodology that we do a journal entry. We get this information from RKG on what revenues were received within the DIF district. That money's part of it goes to pay our debt service. And it was all done through the sinking fund that was set up a few years ago. And then the rest of it goes back in as general fund revenue.
What's the sinking fund?
That is a particular fund. It's just really technically a name for the particular fund, but it's money. It's the fund we use to do the transfer in and transfer out.
All right, so it's the money, so the diff account kind of is just an accounting account.
Correct.
Right.
The particular diff fund that we have, that basically is just a fund with the money that we have borrowed in the diff. That doesn't have any revenues coming in or out of it.
Right, no, I get that. That account that we're actually taking, which is almost been dry from the 30 million that it originally started at, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And so, perhaps through you, Mr. President, to Council Crowe, so what you're seeking to do here is set up kind of an overage account almost, like swiping away the excess revenue that comes in and actually putting it in, almost like a trust fund to cover any shortfalls in the downtown in the future. That's the thinking, right?
So if we use the terminology sinking fund, it's basically transport the sinking fund from the general fund to the diff account. And the reason I say that is because if it drops into the general fund, the sinking fund, correct me if I'm wrong, essentially it becomes part of the metric when we're viewing free cash, right?
Yes, so what happens is at the end of the fiscal year, we do a journal entry within the sinking fund. A portion of that money goes towards the debt service. The other portion, I believe, is then journaled back into the general fund as general fund revenue, and that does come into the free cash.
So my thinking, Councilor, was if it's monies generated through valuation or generated through URDP district, I just have a strong feeling that those monies should stay because the diff account was created to be its own entity. So why wouldn't any overage be part of that entity?
Right, I agree with that. I mean, I think that makes sense, because then it's more money to back up any shortfall later on in what we're doing with, $180 million. I support it. I just want to understand a little bit better. I'm sure we'll discuss it at a later time with Mark and the rest of the folks. Thank you. Thank you.
So the motion is in place, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.